Okay, let's get one thing straight right from the start. This is not your typical career advice. Think of this as a deep dive into, well, the physics of the skill market. Today, we're mapping the hidden forces that explain why some skills command massive value, while others, even with the same amount of effort, just don't. Let's dive in.
So, here's the central puzzle we're tackling. How is it that someone with a mix of good skills often ends up more valuable, more successful than a specialist who's world-class at just one thing? The answer has nothing to do with working harder. It's about understanding the very structure of value itself.
All right, here's our roadmap. We'll start with the paradox itself, then look at where this pattern shows up in the real world. We'll break down the economic engine behind it, look at the trap specialists can fall into, understand the mindset that gives you an edge, and then we'll wrap up with 3 big questions just for you.
First up, the value paradox. This is the signal, the core idea that so many people miss when they're thinking about their own value in the market. It's all about what we think makes someone valuable versus what the market actually pays for.
You know, the common belief, what we're all told, is pretty straightforward. The better you get at one thing, the more you're worth. Go deeper, get paid more. And that makes sense, right? But the problem is, that path is often incredibly crowded and, surprisingly, fragile.
And this really gets to the heart of it. Think about it. The specialist, with their one amazing skill, is basically running in a very crowded lane. There's tons of competition. But the stacker, the person who combines skills, they create their own unique intersection. Suddenly, there's almost no competition, and their value becomes way more defensible.
Okay, on to our second section, the pattern of stacks. So, where does this signal actually show up? Because this isn't just a theory. You can see it playing out everywhere, across all kinds of industries and roles. And you see these skill stacks everywhere. A consultant who's great at analytics and storytelling. They're not just presenting data, they're creating a narrative that moves people to action. A startup generalist who gets both product and sales, they can build something people want and actually sell it. Or a creator who's got design chops and understands distribution. It's not just a list of skills, each one makes the others more powerful. It becomes an integrated system.
All right, so we've seen the what's and the where. Now for the why. Section 3, the economic engine. What's the mechanism that makes these skill stacks so incredibly powerful?
The first piece of this engine is what you could call an economic moat. Think about it. A company might need one person for analysis, another for storytelling, and a third for negotiation. That's a lot of handoffs, a lot of coordination. But when one person can do all 3, they collapse that entire process. They stop being just a component in a machine, they become the entire system. And that is incredibly valuable.
The second driver is just how improbable these combinations are. Look, becoming a great engineer is hard, but it's a known path. You can train for it. But being a top-tier engineer who is also a fantastic public speaker, that's rare. You can't just go to a class for that. It requires deep behavioral integration. The real value isn't in how hard one skill is to learn, but how hard the pairing is to copy.
And mechanism number 3 is all about opportunity density. A specialist's value is often locked into one specific industry. You're the best at that. But a skill stack, let's say finance plus technology, is portable. You can take that combo to fintech, to healthcare, to manufacturing, anywhere. It unlocks multiple markets. Your leverage isn't tied to one place, it multiplies wherever you go.
Okay, so we get the upside. But what happens if you miss this signal? That brings us to section 4, the specialist trap. And this is important because career stagnation is almost never about being lazy or unintelligent. It's about misreading the market.
So what's the real risk of going all in on a single skill? It's just fragile. Your entire value is at the mercy of outside forces. A new piece of software could automate what you do. A ton of new grads could flood the market and drive down prices. Or the market could just move on. And just like that, the value you spent years building can start to erode. This visual really tells the story. For the specialist, you often see value peak, maybe even peak high, but it's constantly under threat. There's a slow downward pressure over time. The stacker, on the other hand, builds something more resilient. Because their value is unique and portable, it doesn't just hold steady, it actually compounds. So how do people who get this right actually think? This isn't about productivity tips or morning routines. It's a different way of seeing the world. This is section 5, the architect's edge. This edge really boils down to 3 key mental shifts. First, you stop just acquiring skills and start deliberately architecting stacks.
Second, you shift your focus from being locked into one domain to making your capabilities transferable. And third, you stop chasing depth for depth's sake, and instead you look for the most powerful strategic intersections.
All right, we've covered a lot of ground, and it all comes back to one thing: your own position in the market. So let's make this real with 3 final questions for you.
First question is simple. What stack do you actually have right now? And I don't mean just listing your skills on a resume. I mean, what are the real combinations you use? What are the 2 or 3 things that you integrate in a unique way?
Okay, second question. Let's go a bit deeper. What's the nature of your mix? Is it an improbable combination? Does it save other people time and effort by reducing coordination? Can you take it to different industries?
And that leads us to the final and maybe the most important question of all. How hard are you to copy? Because at the end of the day, real, durable value doesn't come from being the very best at one common thing. It comes from being the only one who does what you do.